This video is made for you who work the icebreaker blouse. It is made to follow the spot in the pattern where it says beats fourth time and color B begins. I've made this little test knitting to show you these techniques. We will be showing how to place an anchor in the knitting, and there'll also be an instruction in how to do the back and forth, because we will be working back and forth in this knitting. I have now worked a few stitches in color B, the white color, and a few in color A, my blue. I'll now twist the yarn, as you see, and work a few more stitches. I twist the yarn to make sure not to get too long wings on the wrong side. And every time I have twisted, I make sure to stretch out the knitting to get room for the stitches. It should not be tight like this, but stretch as I do here. And I can also drag a little in the yarn. I will also make sure that my twist of yarn does not happen on the same spot as my increases, because then yarn B would show on the right side of the knitting and we wouldn't want that. But still, I will not show increases in this test video. This was just to mention the thing about not twisting where the increases are made. Oops, this one is a bit funky. I'll have to repair that. Good. It's all right if you have a little longer slip of the yarn or wing on the back side, if you like. Just make sure that when you twist the yarn again, that you stretch out the knitting like this, so that it will leave all the elasticity for your knitting that we like and love. Let's pretend I want to have a white stitch again here. I'll just stretch out the knitting. The more time you use in this, the more beautiful it will get. Yeah, and then I'll... Yeah. Oh, what happened here? Just need to get the yarn out again. Yeah. And then continue in my color A like this. When I have worked the last stitch in color B on a row, I will make 3 to 5 stitches in color B. Let's say I'll make 4 this time, and then I'll twist my color B yarn. Not over, but under the color A yarn. And this is to make this anchor in the knitting. So I've finished my color B yarn. I make this anchor. I twist your color B yarn under color A and can then follow the diagram all the way to the end. And why do I do this? I do this so that when I come back on the next row, I have the yarn nicely placed so I can work the first color B stitch without it dragging in the knitting. You don't necessarily have to understand this, but you will see once you work this pattern how nice it is to have these little anchors to make a good flow between color A and color B. I will simply skip all the increases in this knitting because it is only a test knitting to show you about the anchors and the working back and forth in this knitting. And we do have to do this because we have these quite long passages where we do not use color B at all, and we do not want to make a total fair aisle knit where we took color B all the way around. We want to make this glamorous blouse. Yeah, let's see how far we got. I am now, let's have a look, at 1 stitch before marker 1. So I'll make a knit 1, slip marker, and now I will pick up a loop before next stitch with my left hand needle. I will use this one as a turning stitch. It will not count in the number of stitches. It is just a stitch for turning. I'll move the yarn to the front, slip the stitch to right hand needle like this, and move the yarn back again and slip the stitch back to right hand needle and turn the knitting around. We are now ready to work the wrong side of the knitting, the row 2. We have made this extra stitch. It is a turning stitch, and we will be using it for turning around every time we get to that spot. I've slipped the marker and I'll now work my purl stitches all the way to the spot where we have our yarn B twisted, and then I'll show you how to work the anchor coming from this side. Yes. Now we are just at the stitch where we twisted yarn B around yarn A, and I will work that stitch where that happened like this. Yeah, and now I will twist the yarn again. This time I will twist color B over color A and then work the stitches in color A until I get to the real stitches in color B. And look how beautiful this yarn B is now seated in the knitting. Here we have our color B, and now then I will now work color B with color B yarn. On the wrong side there are no color changes, so whatever color your stitch has when you meet it, you will work the color the stitches appear in. Yeah, oh, and again, remember not to drag the yarn tight. Make the wings free and movable on the wrong side of the knitting. Again, just take your time. Oh, I'll just make a little more light for you. Take your time for this. The more time you use, the more beautiful it will be. There is no shortcut here. There's no technique to ease your way. It's just to make sure whenever you have twisted your yarn, also drag your knitting or stretch your knitting to get room for it. Yeah. Yes, and every time I twist my yarn B around my yarn A is when there are worked about 3 to 5 stitches. Different schools at the moment. Some people say you can even have a slip of 7 stitches with your wings on the back side, but then might always drag it like this so that you have the total elasticity of the yarn, and make sure your color A stitches can really stretch well out. I sometimes have the question if there is a technique for this. Well, the technique is to slow down. This can simply not be as fast as a plain knitting. And I see sometimes people who drag the knitting, the fair knitting like this, drag it too tight, and it can take 1 to 2 sizes of your knitting. And that's really a pity, because you pay for the yarn, so you should have the full size that you like and that you planned. Yeah. Again, I twist the yarn, and here comes my color B stitches like this. One more special thing for this knitting is that once you've finished your color B stitches, you'll have to be aware of where you want to use your color B on the following row. So you have to look up in your diagram and see, do I have to use it at the same spot, or do I have to use it earlier? Let's say this time we have to use it about here. So we'll have to prepare for that. So we will have to get the yarn moved and twisted all the way to the spot where you want to use it next time, and even a few stitches more, so that you can still have this anchor. Here we have our 2 stitches, and let's say this is the stitch I want to make color B next time, this one. So I must make sure to get my wool at least 3 to 5 stitches further ahead, so that I can have a nice anchor again in the knitting. Let's say I'll make the anchor about 3 stitches later, and here I will have to remember to twist the yarn B, the color B, under color A, and again stretch out your knitting to make sure you have room enough, like this. So I will be ready to work my color B stitch here, and I have the anchor yarn a bit further out in the knitting. Let's see if we are soon all the way at the end of row 2, wrong side. Yes, here we are. Now we are at 1 stitch before our marker. This is our turning stitch. So we will work now on this one, a wrap and turn. So move your working yarn to the front and slip 1 stitch to right hand needle, move the working yarn to the back, slip the stitch back again, and turn your work around. This was row 2, and again we have used our turning stitch for turning. It has not yet been worked. We are now ready to work our row 3. You'll have to remember as well increases as following color B and the turning of stitches, but I will skip the increases. Let's see if we get to the place where we twisted our color B. We did here, yes, and now I will just work that 1 stitch, and then I will want to twist color B over color A. It's a bit narrow, but I hope you can see this. Color B is twisted over color A, and we continue working color A until we get to the spot where we want to use color B. And that's already here. You would have to look it up in your diagram, of course, but we pretended this was our color B in this test knitting. Again, make sure that there's room enough on the wrong side. If it's tight like this, it's going to look ugly, but if you can even use your needle, or I'll just make the video sharp for you. You can use your needle to make sure that there will be enough air in the wings on the wrong side. Let's continue here. In color A, and coming to color B, we will simply take color B and work. If there's a slip of stitches, I can even place my finger like I just showed you here to make sure there is going to be room enough on the wrong side. It's a quite nice technique. You can use that whenever you want to make sure you have room enough for your wings on the back side. Yeah, but this is simply the row 3 like this. I want to twist my yarn again like that, and as soon as there are 3 to 5 stitches between the twists, I'll make a new twist, and always make sure not to drag it tight. Stretch out each and every time. I think I sort of pet my knitting like that. I really like this process. Yeah, here again we have a color B stitch, and this is actually the last color B on this row. So again, I'll have to be aware of making this anchor in the knitting, and I think this time I'll make it 5 stitches further out, so it's not going to be at the same spot as the previous row. I don't have to worry that I need to use my color B yarn further away, because this is the right side, and when I go back on the wrong side, there are never new colors to appear. It will always be work as color shows. So now I will twist my color my color B under yarn A. And if you need to see this under, this is like this. Here goes color B under color A, and now I am again ready to continue. Now I will work all the way to marker 1, and I will of course leave the color B now because I don't want to have it at all the way. Now I'm just 1 stitch before marker 1, and I'll work that stitch. Here you see my marker 1. I love these numbered markers. Slip the marker and meet the turning stitch. It's the one a bit funky stitch like here. And again I will move my working yarn to the front, slip the stitch to right hand needle, move the working yarn to the back and slip the stitch back and turn the knitting. Yes, so I'm ready for my row 4, the wrong side. I will slip the marker back, drag the yarn tight, not too tight but fairly tight, and then start working in purl all the way to the spot where I have twisted my color B to make the anchor. And let's meet again at that spot to see how that is done. Yes, now we are just at the spot where we can see our anchor. I will just work the few more stitches needed until we get to the anchor spot. So these 3 color A stitches, and also the one where the anchor is, just like that. And so we get the new anchor 1 stitch after that. Twist simply color B yarn over color A and continue purl with color A until you get to the spot. Look at this, to the spot where you have where you will begin to work your color B yarn. Here it is. I can now take my color B yarn and make ready to purl here. And again I have to make sure not to drag it too tight, sort of stretch out my knitting and continue as the color shows. I will work my color A and continue in this technique with color A and color B as the stitches appear until 1 stitch before the turning stitch, before the marker 1. Oh, just let me take you here because it turned out this one was too tight and I will have to drag it a bit more open with my needle and make sure the elasticity is perfect. And look how beautiful the yarn is now laying and giving room for the stitches. Yeah. There's a bit different schools here. Some schools say you can have even 7 or 9 stitches between your twist of yarns. I prefer the 3 to 5, but that's really a matter of also which experience you have with this. Now we are at the last stitch in color B on the wrong side, so we need to make again ready for an anchor in the knitting. I will just make sure that my anchor is at a new spot compared to the one where I twisted last on the previous row. Here I can make my anchor and make sure to twist color B yarn under color A. If we can find our color B, here it is, twisted under color A like this. And continue all the way to 1 stitch before marker 1. And that is here, 1 stitch before marker 1. So now we finally got to the row where we actually work this stitch, and we work it up row 1 like this, and it's only worked on this 4th row. Don't worry about the little hole that appears in the knitting. It will disappear again once you have made several more rows, and the first little hole you might have to sort of sew together here, but still it is so much to prefer to sewing together these pieces. But never mind, we are now ready to work our 4 rows again. In this row number 1 we will always from now on slip first stitch without working it, and then knit all the way to marker 1, slip the marker and make a twist and a wrap and turn. So don't get too fussy about this little unevenness that will appear in your knitting. You can have a look at our jumper here. This is where our turning begins right there, and you can see of course that it's a bit more uneven than when we worked in the round. And if I look very closely, it looks really horrible, but don't look so close. Get your nose out of your knitting, and remember that this is how it will show on your body. Nobody will, I hope, pick their nose all the way into your little turning stitches. So if I drag it, it will even out nicely, like this. And if I take it close to my eyes, I will think it's horrible, but it's not meant to be looked at like that. Just drag it out, and once you have also steamed and maybe pressed your jumper with your iron, it will be even more beautiful. This was the 4 rows. Also have a look at your 4 rows in your pattern and see how they are repeated until you have as many new stitches as required in your size. I hope you'll have fun working the icebreaker from here on.